Hello everyone, and today we're going to be talking about the hottest deck in Master Duel right now, Mathmech, after getting their amazing support in the form of Circular. I want you to get used to seeing this deck because you're going to be seeing it a lot. There's a lot of talk that a deck like this may even end up on the tier list at some point soon, and to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised. I went from Platinum 5 to Diamond 5 in the matter of hours using this deck after our stream yesterday, after I went worked alongside some members in our Discord in order to build the version of it you're seeing here. This version is a sort of really heavy going second variant of it. It does have a lot of plays for going first as well, with Link Climbing, Masquerena, Super Factorial. It goes first really well whenever you're forced to, but you ideally want to be going second in order to utilize the full power of your Sigma, your Lightning Storm, your Droplet. I did initially try playing it in the going first variant, and it's really good, but it doesn't have the same amount of impact and game-winning potential as it does with the final Sigma. So that in particular is up to you whether or not you want to be running these sorts of going second cards. The deck list itself doesn't actually change, so it's very, very versatile. It's only really the hand traps. But yeah, this deck is absolutely nuts. We're going to do a card for card deck profile at the end of the video, as well as talking about some of the big combos. We are going to be showing them, of course, in the gameplay as well, so do watch the gameplay. It can be a little bit difficult to figure out right away, but once it clicks, once the buttons sort of land in place in your brain, it is so straightforward and easy to play. Once you've sort of made the initial connections, that honestly, you're going to be up, you're going to be beating people in absolutely no time at all. So without further ado, that's our deck list. If you like what you're seeing here, you want to see more, feel free to subscribe and like the video, as well as leave any recommendations or comments down below. There's a whole myriad of different deck types that Circular can help, like Salamangreats, Code Talkers, and I'm sure a few others as well. So we are going to be abusing the Circular probably for the next couple of videos at least. We're going to be looking into other variants of it as well. So if you want to keep an eye out for what you can do with this bad boy here, who is quickly becoming one of my favorite engine cards, we'll talk about why in a minute, then yes, absolutely subscribe. We are getting so close to our 1,000 subscriber goal. At the time of recording, we're just shy of 970, so we are so close to getting there. So if you haven't subscribed and you are seeing this, do me a wee favor and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, and you get to see this sort of content coming out at least 3, 4, 5 times a week. So without further ado, let's get into game number 1. Alrighty, now this is a head-to-head of two of my favorite decks, of course, Mathmech and Labyrinth. Labyrinth is really cool. We played it a good bit on stream. They're going to be going for a pretty regular setup here, but they have a lot of resources. They're going to go Ariane here to try to summon out Ariana from their deck. They, of course, have Cult by the Grave to prevent their Maxi. We don't really care too much about that. It's honestly good that they use the Cult by the Grave right there, rather than keeping it to be used later. So that's completely fine. They're only going to end up special summoning once anyway, so we are a-okay with that. They'll search their deck for the Labyrinth, and then set that to their field, and they're good to go. So their board is actually a lot more menacing than it looks, especially considering we can't really negate this back row. We do top deck into the Circular. This hand is pretty cool. Basically, anytime you see Circular in your hand, it's a good hand. Circular and any other Mathmech, pretty much full combo. We're going to go Circular, pitch the Nabla from deck to graveyard. We were initially playing multiple copies. You don't have to. They're going to go for their trap card here. Do you want to see a deck go +6 and still lose? So they're going to go here, evens them out. They're going to pop 1. There's +1, right? This is going to snipe a card in hand, +2. Draw a card, +3. Draw a card, +4. Then they're going to add this back to their hand. There's +5. Then they're going to take this and special summon it. There's +6. You want to see any deck go +6 off of a single trap card and still lose? Let's see. Let's see if we can make it happen. We didn't even drop it because realistically we didn't really even care too much about it. There's no card in our hand that they can really destroy yet. They get rid of Sigma, which doesn't really hurt us at all. We're going to go for Sigma here, and we're going to summon our multiplication. We're going to boost our multiplications level up to 8. Summon out the final Sigma. Multiplication will double the attack points of a monster in your extra monster zone whenever it's sent to the grave. And bang. Game over. It's as easy as that. And there's so many decks that just aren't ready for that. that it's actually criminal. Now, not all of the gameplay, it's just going to be Mathmech beatdown. I know, as much as I love the Sigma slap here with the Geo Mathmech Final Sigma, that's not going to be what all the replays are about, but I had to show off at least one, especially in a situation where your opponent goes literally +6. But anyway, let's get into game number 2. Alright, this is, again, a slightly different variant of it. You'll notice that some of these deck lists are slightly different to what we ended up on. Like, for example, Parallel Exceed here. You can totally play this card if you want to play a more going first-centric version of it, but I didn't like it that much. I'm going to keep it real. So we're going to go Circular here, pitch Sigma from the deck. Our opponent's going to go their Parallel Exceed. So this is going to be an interesting one. I wanted to show this off because it's going to show you how to play around Maxi. And it's really simple in this version of it. You just summon your Circular if possible, normal summon any of our Mathmech, Baguska, set, pass. It's that easy. So Baguska is going to offer a lot of protection, and I don't see a lot of people playing it, but it's going to offer a lot of protection against a lot of decks that want to sort of go nuts. Now, we're playing against Runic at the moment, and this is a very interesting game against Runic, because they're starting to snipe cards out of our hand. They banished the Balancer Lord, which is going to attempt to summon a monster from our deck. They're going to try and pop our back row, so our Super Factorial is gone. In general, it's not looking great for us. All of our cards are getting banished. Our Runic Fountain is recycling all of his. Our Baguska, it is stopping the search off of his Runic monsters, but it's not ultimately providing us the level of advantage we were initially hoping for. So he just sits free, passes back to us, that is fine. We do have the Cosmic in hand, which means that we are going to be able to get rid of, at the very least, one copy of his field spell, that's fine. We're going to switch our Baguska to attack mode here because we realize the amount of value we're getting isn't all that great. We're going to boost up and summon out our Lingaribo here so we can go for Parallel Exceed, bring it out to the field. Then our Subtraction here is going to bring itself out as well. We're going to go into Splash Mage. Splash Mage then gets to revive a Cybers monster from grave. We're going to go for Multiplication, but it is going to get negated, unfortunately, by being banished off the Cult by the Grave, so no multiplication for us, unfortunately. And that's one of your big win cons, to be honest. We're going to link to using our Baguska into IP Masquerena and then go into our access code Talker. This is where we're going to get a lot of advantage here, boosting up to 43, banishing from grave to pop 1, and banishing from grave to pop 2 then. So our opponent, we have done a little bit of damage to our opponent playing that Inferno Tempest, fair play to them, but we weren't able to secure game here. If we were playing Update Jammer, we might have been able to do so, but we aren't, unfortunately. We usually rely on multiplication for that play instead. They're going to summon out one of their Runic monsters here, the Fountain, returning 2 to draw 2. They're going to activate another copy of the Fountain here to use their Runic Slumber. They're just really trying to turbo down our deck because they realize that we are a huge threat here. They're going to end their turn. That's perfectly fine here. Then they're going to very quickly go for Runic Slumber. What Runic Slumber does is, yes, the most common effect used, it protects the monster that it targets from destruction the next time it will be destroyed, but it also prevents that monster from attacking. So access code cannot declare any attacks this turn. And our opponent's plan is literally, we've got 14 cards left in deck. Their plan is to slow us down until they deck us out, basically. We're going to take out the Fountain, and we're going to pass turn back to our opponent here. Their draw phase comes up, and this is where things get a little bit crazy. They go Saber Valley as well as Cards of Demise, drawing what is essentially 5 cards off the top of their deck. They're going to go Slumber yet again. Well, they attempted to destroy us there, but again, we use IP Masquerena to summon our access code, so that can't happen. Card of Destruction, just trying to mill out our deck as much as possible. The Golden Droplet, trying to mill out our deck as much as possible. And they've got 4 face down cards, and we've only got a handful of cards left on our deck. We've got 7. They're going to summon out another Runic monster to recycle a copy of Fountain. So if we don't end this game this turn, that's pretty much game over for us, and our opponent unfortunately has that skill drain. So we're going to have to be smart here. We're going to use our access code Talker, banish itself to pop the skill drain. Then we're going to normal summon Diameter. Diameter is going to try to revive Circle. It's going to get negated, unfortunately. So our opponent is really slowing us down here, but they only have 1 face down left. So if they can't stop us, then we're going to win. And this is where we go into Laplacian. When summoned, remove 3 materials, snipe a card in hand, snipe a monster, snipe a back row, use Mathmech Edition to boost its attack points up to 3000, and that is game. Also, because we used Diameter as material for it, our Laplacian had a negate built into it as well for the duration of the turn it was summoned. So we were loving it. So we just looped the last of his cards, boost up our attack points, and go for a game. So that was a really good game against Runic. Runic is a very interesting matchup. It's not the easiest one to win with this deck. So knowing what your options are and knowing how to play around it is very important. And the link climb and access code talker and things of that nature is going to be very good against things like Runic, because you can just completely annihilate their field. So do bear in mind that that's a big sort of draw of the deck. But anyway, I'm not going to sit and repeat myself. Let's get into the next game. Alright, here we are. We're going first again. This is not exactly a great hand for going first, but having the maining in hand is always very good because it just gets you access to circular. Now, we haven't actually displayed the full circular combo here, so I think we're going to display it in this game. Circular can activate the pitch and Mathmech from deck to graveyard to summon itself out it comes. You're normally going to pitch Sigma, which will be able to summon itself from grave. Now, circular, whenever you summon another Mathmech, will search your deck for any Mathmech spell or trap card. Whenever you're going first, you want to be searching for Mathmech Super Factorial. This card is broken. Whenever you're going first in Mathmechs, your one and only objective is put 3 different Mathmechs in grave and Super Factorial on your field. That is your one and only objective. It also helps to sort of link climb a little bit. We're going to summon out Subtraction here. We're going to Exceed summon. It's important when you use Sigma's effect that you use it as Exceed material and not, Synchro or Link material, because when it's sent to the graveyard from the field, it gets banished. However, if it's used as Exceed material, it does not get banished. It goes to the graveyard, meaning you can still use it. This was a stage at which we were still using Mathmech Induction, which isn't, the most broken of cards. We ended up cutting it, so we're going to resummon Circular here under our Link Disciple. Link Disciple, Devotee, this is going to help you with your link claims, and now we've satisfied our condition of all our Mathmechs in grave. We're going to grab Mathmech Addition here to our hand, so that gives us additional combo potential. We're going to summon out our 2 tokens, link 2 into Splash Mage. This maybe isn't we were still sort of learning the combo line here. It might have been better to go into Wicked here for follow-up, but ultimately it doesn't matter too much. Summon out Splash Mage, and then summon out IP Masquerena, set your Factorial, set your Induction, and pass. So what exactly does this give us? A link 4 of our choice, usually Avramax. We've got a pop, as long as we control a Mathmech monster, and we've got Super Factorial, which will allow us to utilize the Laplacian during our opponent's turn, which will send a card from their hand, a monster, and a trap from their field, all to the graveyard on a trap card, which is nuts. So our opponents, they're playing Pendulums here, which is very interesting. Playing their 2 Magicians, Wisdom Eye popping itself to search his deck for the double Iris Magician. Then they're going to Pendulum summon for 4, bringing out their level 6 here as their 5th summon. Now we're going to use our Super Factorial right now, picking 3 different Mathmechs in grave. Unfortunately, our opponent does have the Cult by the Grave, which is the counter to the strategy. We're going to chain Masquerena to this now because, again, we don't want him going into Baron de Fleur and negating it. We still, of course, have the Induction, which is going to be somewhat useful. Our Circular gets banished, which isn't great. Now, whenever you're doing this sort of thing, Circular is, of course, the most important one. If your opponent has Diameter, Diameter is even more important. We're going to go into this guy, though, and then we're going to detach to search for a Circular for follow-up. So right now, we're just securing our ability to play the game. Next turn, we're going to use Induction to pop the Oath Dragon, and that's pretty much it. He didn't have... I checked his deck list afterwards. He didn't have an out to Avramax anywhere in his deck. There was 0 outs to Avramax. He couldn't do it. So that's why he ended up surrendering, which I thought was very interesting. I initially wasn't sure as to why they surrendered. Avramax was too much for him. And then on our following turn, we Circular into just, again, huge boss monsters and win the game from there. Very, very quick one. Again, we're going to be playing, I think, 5 replays in this video as opposed to 4. But yeah, just wanted to show that one off quickly. That's the link climb into Avramax. Alrighty, yet again going first. I think we were forced to go first this time. We have the double Lightning Storm in hand, so that's not exactly fantastic for going first. But again, all you need is Circular, baby. Circular sends Sigma, Sigma Revive. That triggers Circular's effect to search our deck for the Super Factorial. That is the plan. We're gonna Exceed off into Elum. Elum detach to search our deck for Induction. Again, it searches for any Mathmech card, so you just take your pick. We're going to use Diameter here on Normal Summon Revives a Mathmech from grave. Using these 2, we're simply going to go into our Link Disciple, Link Devotee, and from here, we're going to get comboing. So we're going to Tribute the Devotee to draw 1, return 1. Maxi is a fantastic pickup off of Disciple. Then we're going to summon out our 2 link tokens. We're going to link off into Cyberse Wicked, and then we're going to link off into IP Masquerena, triggering the Wicked to banish the Cyberse Engrave to basically add us a tuner from deck to hand. So we grab a Diameter. We were playing 2 Diameter at this stage. I think 2 Diameter is good. I ended up cutting it to 1 because I opened up with it too often. But you don't have to play 2. You can play 1, but I think 2 is fine. He's going to go for Tinky here. We activate Induction, however we do not use its effect Ascend because it can only be activated once it's already face up. So we decide to hold off on it. Our opponent's going to go Zodiac Ram. We're going to go Super Factorial here, pick 3 from our graveyard, including the Diameter, which is a big deal, and we're going to Exceed off into Laplacian. Laplacian is going to activate Pitch 3 material, send a monster from his field, a spell, a trap card, and a card from his hand, all to the graveyard. It's going to Monster Reborn back to Ram. That's when we're going to chain our Max C here. We did hit the Call by the Grave off of our Laplacian, however, he does have a second one in hand. So we decide we're going to use the Diameter Negate to stop the Call by the Grave. On the turn in which your monster is summoned, if you use Diameter as material, you get, basically that monster gains an Omni Negate for that turn, which is pretty busted. You love to see it. So our Maxi does in fact resolve. It's going to draw us an additional card off as this Monster Reborn. We do not want him doing any sort of Zodiac shenanigans, so we decide to pop the Ram with Induction anyway. But our opponent had the Kit and the Caress in hand right from the very beginning, so we were just getting played. So even after all of that, our opponent still has the way. Using your IP Masquerena here would be a mistake because he would simply use his Sure Egg to banish whatever monster you summon. So you might as well just take the L, hold the L. He's going to end up banishing Masquerena. That's completely fine. He can't destroy Wicked by battle, so that feels, luckily for us. He does take out our Exceed monster, but Wicked being on the field does give us quite a lot of potential. So we're going to go for Diameter here. Diameter, revive a Circular Engrave. Going to summon it over here. We don't quite want to trigger Wicked just yet. Going to Equation back to Sigma. We're going to sign up Mining, ditch the Cosmic Cyclone to grab an addition. We're just getting so much advantage here. We're going to Synchro Summon off into Sigma. Now bear in mind, this guy only gets his really good effects if he's summoned to the extra monster zone, and we know that. However, we just want the 3k beater here with the Diameter Negate. And we're going to use the rest of our cards to make this card just as deadly as it normally is. Boosting it up by 1000 here with our addition, then going into Access Code Talker, triggering our Parallel Exceed, summoning itself and another monster. These guys aren't really too necessary, but they do give you an additional Exceed summon if you so require. Again, they were a little bit bricky, so we ended up cutting them. We grab the Billion Blade. Wicked then gets revived under our Transcode Talker, so we can go into Access Code Talker. This ends up not being all that useful. Because we're just going to end up using Access Code Talker to start popping all its cards. We get rid of Sure Egg. Sure Egg's effect activates. We negate it for good measure. We're not going to get another opportunity to use that negate. So that is fine. And then Access Code will also pop the Caress, which you love to see. Another play would have been simply to equip with Billion Blade and attack and boost up with Multiplication. But ultimately, again, it wasn't all that necessary. We're just going to swing, and then we're going to swing. It's pretty much as simple as that. So yeah, that was a much better display of what the turn 1 sort of prowess of the deck is. Induction does help, right? I'm a big fan of Induction in the going first variant, right? If you're going to be playing like Parallel Exceed and everything like that, I would recommend playing Induction because it's a fantastic second search off of your Alum. Basically, your Alum, the Exceed monster there, he's either going to search for Circular, or you're already going to have had Circular, in which case you can search for whatever you want. All you need in your hand is one additional Cyberse monster plus Circular, and that is your full play. That's it. So if you already have both of those in hand, and there's a decent probability you will, then ALM just gets to search you an additional spell or trap card, which could be your Induction. But yeah, anyway, that's pretty much it for that one. Might as well throw up another game here. Alrighty, so we are actually going second this time, which is pretty good. We're up against Live Twins. Live Twins making a small comeback. I've been seeing more of them in this latest update than I have been seeing them in quite a while. I'm not entirely sure why. So they're bringing out the Evil Twins. They're just doing standard Live Twin shenanigans. We're just going to let them do their shtick. They're going to go this. Ultimately, I'm sort of convinced that it doesn't matter what they add off of this. It's not going to be worth the Ash Blossom because they're almost certainly going to already have everything they need. Live Twins always do. then they're going to go into the Sunny and pass turn. So that's perfectly fine. We wanted to keep the Ash on the off chance they were going to go into like Max C or something like that. We Lightning Storm here and target monsters because we don't want him triggering off his effects mid-turn. Sigma here is going to be coming out. That is exactly why we held the Ash Blossom. We knew they were going to have something like the Max C, so we didn't want that to impede us. However, they still had the crossout designator, so that is very, very unfortunate. We made the right plays, we made the plan, but unfortunately it still just wasn't enough to stop that Max C from resolving, and that does change the dynamic quite a bit here. We're just going to attack. Under normal circumstances, we would have gone into Baguska, but Sigma locks you into Cybers, so we couldn't even go into Baguska, which is why we didn't use our Diameter Summon. They're going to snipe our Induction, which is super unfortunate. The reason we didn't imperm that is because, I don't know if anyone was paying attention, but last turn they searched their deck for the blue sub-twin, or whatever you want to call it, like the small twin, this guy. So because you summoned the pink, even if we had negated that, he would have been able to summon this from hand and still go in the full combo. So we end up, it's just fine. Ultimately, there's no really good spot to use this negate, so we're just going to use it now to stop this. That's going to force him to use an additional copy of the Link Monster from his extra deck at the very least. So the Leela comes on out. It's going to revive the Kiski. I can't pronounce these names, I'm not going to try. He's going to use these two now to go into his Trouble Sunny. Trouble Sunny, of course, being a bit of a problem. He's going to take out our Sigma, which does get banished, unfortunately, limiting the follow-up power of Diameter. This is why I ended up cutting Diameter down to 1. We kept on being left in situations where it was our only summon and it wasn't of any use. I would much rather have had additional cards to facilitate additional summons, which, like Balancer Lord, we ended up, we were playing 2 and 2, Balancer Lord, Diameter. We ended up cutting it to 3 Balancer Lord, 1 Diameter for this exact reason. And I've been loving it, honestly. Having the additional Diameter is sometimes useful. You could, yeah, I mean, this is pretty much, there's not really very much else here to talk about. I'm going to speed through this. We've got no plays. Our opponent then on their turn is going to Tribute 2, go into their big boss monster there, 4400, and that's game. So you can't win them all. Sometimes you get unlucky, but it's about taking those losses and developing off of them, making the changes you need to change, learning the plays you need to learn, and ultimately developing. This was a bit of a learning curve for us because we had never played Mathmech before. We picked them up on stream very, very clumsily. You'll notice if you watch the stream gameplay, we didn't even fully build the deck before testing it. And then it was refined over a matter of hours, and in a space of a few hours, it got us from Platinum to Diamond. So this deck is in fact busted, but you can't win every game. Let's get into the deck profile, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what you were seeing. Alrighty, so here is the deck list. You have quite a lot of flex spots in this deck, which is very good. We're going to be removing them for now. These cards are all technically your choice. However, I think the lineup that I ended up settling on was quite impressive, and it worked really well for me. So we've got the triple Max C, we've got the triple Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, we've got the double Lightning Storm, the double Cosmic Cyclone, the double Call by the Grave, Droplet, and triple Infinite Impermanence. That is 17 slots. 17 slots that you can do whatever you want with. 17. That's a lot of flex spots. That is so many hand traps. That's so many interruptions. You can even, if you want to, honestly, you can start bumping up some of your engine cards to sort of compensate from the fact that you've got so many free slots, but I didn't even feel the need to. In fact, we're playing some engine cards that we probably shouldn't be, like Mathmech Division. You maybe want to bump Super Factorial up by 1 if you are so inclined. But yeah, ultimately, this is all you actually need. This is what we ended up playing in the main deck. And it's really simple. Realistically, it's just Circular Turbo. Circular is such a busted card. You're going to be seeing this card a lot in a myriad of different strategies. Basically, if you have this card in your hand, you send a Mathmech monster from your deck to the graveyard to summon this card. Then, while it's face up, if a Mathmech monster is summoned to your field, you get to search your deck for any Mathmech spell or trap card, which is pretty busted. That's pretty good. Especially considering the power behind some of these cards. These are the 3 main spells and traps you're playing. You can also technically play Induction. I played it a good bit during testing. I think this card is very solid if your build is focused on going first. But I don't think it's necessary, as we ended up shifting to a going second focused variant. So you can play Induction if you want to. But yeah, Circular is busted. We're running 3 Circular and 3 copies of Sign Up Mining to search for Circular. So absolutely, this guy is focus. What are you going to be doing whenever you're using him? Well, you're going to use him to send Mathmech Sigma to Grohl. We're going to cover off the Mathmech cards. Very quickly, Balancer Lord is just a level 4 Cyberse, where if he's on the field, you pay 1,000 life points and you get an additional normal summon that turn. So that does come up. That's really, really good. But yeah, so you're going to be using Circular, and when you're pitching off a Circular, you're going to pitch Sigma. Sigma, as long as you don't control any monsters in your extra monster zone, you can special summon this card from your hand or graveyard, but it does lock you in the Cyberse for that turn, so be aware of that. But usually Circular, pitch Sigma, summon itself. Sigma summons itself to the field because you have nothing in your extra monster zone. That triggers your Circular to search your deck for whatever card you're looking for. If you're going first, you're going Super Factorial. If you're going second, you're going for the Billion Blade. But generally speaking, that's how that little combo works. And the rest of the monsters are relatively straightforward. Nabla would be your next most powerful Mathmech card. Basically, you can tribute a Cyberse monster on the field, special summon any Mathmech monster from your deck. It's an effect that it's very good, but it doesn't come up as often as you think it would. Ultimately, you're basically going to be summoning out something like Division, Multiplication, just to get their additional graveyard effects, or maybe even Diameter to get its protection effect. That's its most common usage, but to be perfectly honest, there's no reason as to why you couldn't directly access all of these cards yourself without Nabla. So it really just does come down to your resources and what you have, but playing the one of Nabla is good. I'm a fan of Nabla. Then we're playing Addition and Subtraction. They both do basically the exact same thing. Target a monster on the field, you either give it an extra 1,000 attack points, or take 1,000 attack points away from it, and then you special summon this monster from your hand. So ultimately, these guys are really good. They're just additional special summons. They both lock you into Cyberse, so be aware of that. The reason that's important is if your plan is to go into Baguska, the moment you activate Sigma, the moment you activate Addition or Subtraction, you're locked into Cyberse. So be aware of that. Circular does not lock you into Cyberse. Then we've got Multiplication. Multiplication can double the level of one of your level 4 Cyberse, boost it up to level 8. Phenomenal for synchro summoning into Sigma, of course. And he also has the effect where if he's sent to the graveyard, you target a Cyberse monster in your extra monster zone, double its attack. That is brutal when combined with your Mathmech Billion Blade. It doesn't even need to be used in combination with Final Sigma. The amount of times I've gone into Access Code Talker and equipped it with this card, boosting our Access Code Talker up to 10,600 attack. This card in combination with Multiplication basically takes up the slot that Update Jammer would have taken up in the extra deck. I honestly don't play Update Jammer only because I feel like in situations where I need to get that amount of damage, I can simply get the Billion Blade a lot easier and do it that way. So I mean, you're more than free to play Update Jammer. I just don't think it's necessary when you've got this bad boy. But yeah, Multiplication is pretty nuts, doubling your monster's attack points and also facilitating your additional synchro summons. Then you've got Division, which does the opposite. Whenever it's sent to the graveyard, you will get to have the attack points of a monster on the field. This has won me games. There was a game against Dinomorphia in particular where we literally just summoned out our it was one of our just regular monsters. I think it was might have been Circular. I think it was Circular, yeah. We just summon out Circular, equip it with Billion Blade, and then we swing into the Kentragina, but use our Billion Blade to send the Division. It boosts our attack points up by 1,500, and then Division halved his Kentragina's attack points down, and we were able to secure lethal over it. So honestly, Division it's not a card that a lot of people play, but it's a card that I'm a big fan of. So absolutely, I would play at least one copy of it. It can sometimes be a little bit of a brick, but again, your deck can so easily summon and recycle level 4 Cyberse that it's honestly a joke. It's not in any way a limitation. Then Diameter. This is probably after, I would say this is the second most powerful card in the deck. I would say Circular first, then Diameter, then Sigma, then Nabla. Diameter is really good. When normal summoned, you target a level 4 Cyberse monster in your graveyard and summon it, built-in monster reborn. Be aware that monster can't activate its effects. So there's no like recycling Circular and getting its effects, or recycling Nabla and using its effect. But it will recycle something from the graveyard. And if it's used as material for a Synchro or Exceed summon, the monster that you summon will gain the effect that for the rest of the turn, it has a built-in Omni Negate, or for the duration of the turn in which it was summoned. That is so so strong, not only on your turn going second whenever you're up against opponents who have already like got established boards, you can negate their negates. The amount of times that people have tried to stop our plays whenever it's way too late after you've already used diameter, you're negating their Baron de Fleur, you're negating their Maxi, you're negating their Ash, you're doing all of that off of diameter, and it's pretty ridiculous. It's pretty nutty what this card can do. So yeah, I would honestly, I know I'm only playing one of it. Initially I was playing 2 and 2. I was just finding myself in lots of situations where I wasn't able to put another monster out on the field with diameter. So I was valuing the autonomy of the Balancer Lord a little bit more, especially considering how easy it is to search for these cards, man. It's so easy to search for cards in this deck. You just, if you have a thought of, I want this card in my hand, you can just get it. It's so easy. So honestly, I think 1 diameter is perfectly fine. It's also a tuner, which comes up. But yeah, that is pretty much all of the monsters. Sign-up mining does sign-up mining things. Send a card from hand to graveyard to grab a Cyberse monster from your deck. This card, of course, is in the Salamangreat structure deck. So yes, it's a UR, but it's a completely, it's virtually free to play UR out of the Salamangreat structure deck, meaning the only main deck UR you're playing is the Mathmech Circular itself. And trust me, it's worth it. This card is busted. Mining basically gets it, and then you have your 3 Mathmech spells and traps. Equation is just a searchable monster reborn. Your Billion Blade, like I said, if your Cyberse monster battles an opponent's monster, you get to send a Mathmech monster from deck to graveyard, and then your monster's attack points are boosted by its attack points. Now, of course, the actual boosting of attack points is handy on occasion, but what is significantly more useful is the graveyard effects of some of your Cyberse monsters, like Multiplication and Division in particular, doubling your monster's attack points or having that of your opponent. Whenever you consider Sigma's effect, which we'll get to in a second, that becomes extremely relevant. So Billion Blade is pretty nuts. Also, if it's destroyed, you get to recycle a Mathmech card back from your graveyard, which is kind of nice. So yeah, it's got some follow-up as well. And lastly, what is possibly the most busted card in the deck underneath Circular, I would say is Super Factorial. So basically during your, well, I mean, it's a trap card, so whenever you want, basically, you target up to 3 Mathmech monsters in your graveyard with different names, special summon them all to the field, and then immediately either synchro summon or exceed summon using them. So it's like a diet version of Tri-Brigade Revolt. It's really powerful considering the monsters you can summon off of it. That's why whenever you're going first, your one and only objective is to turbo 3 Mathmechs into the graveyard and get your hands on Super Factorial, which is ridiculously easy, especially considering this particular Exceed monster, which we'll get to in a second. So Super Factorial is your going first god card. It is really good. Again, it's as simple as that. There's nothing more to say about it. 3 different Mathmechs turn into this guy, which we'll talk about in a second. First, we're going to talk about Final Sigma, which is your main win condition for when you're going second, which is ideally most of the time. Basically, unaffected by any card effect that isn't Mathmech cards while in the extra monster zone. So you do have to put it in the extra monster zone. If it battles an opponent's monster, any battle damage inflicted becomes doubled. And if it's ever destroyed, you get to search your deck for a Mathmech card. But it's only the first 2 effects we're interested in. It being an unaffected 3k beater, and any damage it inflicts over a monster is doubled. That means that you basically have a 1-card combo here, well, Circular plus any level 4, where you're able to boost your Sigma up to 7,000 attack points. And so if you attack any monster that has 3,000 or less attack, you win the game, because you'll be dealing over 8,000 damage. That's the idea. You basically just want to Circular, you turbo out 3 monsters, immediately synchro into this guy, ideally with the legs of diameter so that you can get an extra negate, but you just turbo out your Final Sigma, equip him with the Billion Blade, which you will search for either using Circular or using Alum, and whenever you attack with your Sigma, you attack and activate Billion Blade, send Multiplication to boost your attack by 500, so now you're 3,500. Then Multiplication's effect activates to boost your attack by double, so you go up to 7,000 attack, 3,500 doubled, 7,000, you swing in, any damage you inflict is doubled over a monster, meaning if they have any monster on their field with 3,000 or less attack points, they're cooked. They are cooked. They lose the game immediately, which is busted. It's so strong, and there's not, like, once the play gets going, there's not very much they can do about it. Like, it's just here. He's unaffected. He's completely unaffected by card effects that aren't Mathmech cards. Ironically, that does come up because Mathmech's pretty popular at the minute. But yeah, Sigma is busted. It's so good. Baguska, you saw in the gameplay, Baguska is basically for when you're going first or even second, to be honest, and your opponent hits you with a maxi right off the bat. If your opponent hits you a maxi right off the bat and you haven't cyber locked yourself yet, Baguska becomes amazing. It has single-handedly won me tons of games in situations where I otherwise just wouldn't have stood a chance against the likes of Sword Soul, for example. Certain Sword Soul matchups, if you just get hit with that maxi at the wrong time, or if you just get hit with the negates at the wrong time, it can be really detrimental. So having the Baguska here as a fallback plan has helped me massively. So I would definitely recommend playing it at 1 if you want to. You don't have to play this card. If you want to cut this card for Update Jammer, you can. I think Update Jammer definitely has a place in the deck, so I probably would play it, but I think Baguska is just... the role it plays is very specific, but it's very good at playing that role. It buys you time against Max C and will secure you your win then on the follow-up, because it just enables you to, during the next couple of turns, you just go into Sigma and beat their ass. It's as simple as that. Yeah, so to pair, then you've got your 2 Mathmech Exceed monsters. So this one here, basically, is a few effects. This effect here in particular is very, very busted, but we very rarely use it for anything except this first effect, which is to add a Mathmech card from deck to hand. So realistically, what you're going to be doing is, if you don't have Circular, you're going to add Circular. If you already have Circular, then you're going to just be adding an Extender, which is going to be potentially Diameter if you don't have it yet. It's going to be the likes of Addition or Subtraction. Diameter is one of the better searches, or even Nabla to get your Diameter, because he can also tribute himself to special summon a Mathmech from your hand or graveyard, meaning whatever monster you're going to end up summoning off of your Super Factorial or off of your Synchro Summons, you're going to be able to give Diameter's negate, which is a pretty big deal, to be honest. That's a big deal. So you'll normally summon, if you already have Circular, you'll normally go into something either like Diameter or Nabla to get your Diameter. That's the idea. And the other one, this is the more aggressive of the two. This is one you will normally summon off of Super Factorial, although you can just summon it outright, where it requires 3 level 4 monsters. And basically on summon, you will detach as many materials as you can, up to 3, to activate as many of these effects as you can. You will send a random card from your opponent's hand to the graveyard for 1 material, send a monster your opponent controls to the graveyard on your 2nd material, and on your 3rd material, send a spell or trap card your opponent controls to the graveyard. Now, if any one of those conditions can't be met, you can skip over it and pay the cost for the other ones. So for example, if your opponent doesn't have any monsters on the field, but they do have a spell or a trap, you detach 2 materials, you get rid of a random card in their hand, and get rid of a spell or trap. So you don't have to pay the cost for the monster effect because you're not actually using it, so you just sort of skip over it. But if they have all 3, then you must resolve all 3 in order to get their effects. They must happen in sequence. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much busted, especially considering your Super Factorial allows you to do this on your opponent's turn. You just interrupt their combos, like you saw in the Tri-Brigade game. You just, in the middle of their turn, summon out your Laplacian and pitch 3 of their cards to the graveyard. That is insane. And if you manage to use Diameter for it, which you will very easily be able to set up like we just talked about, then your Laplacian also has a negate. If you don't detach all of its materials, it also has an effect where it can detach a material to protect a Mathmech card from effect destruction. So it just sort of does it all, to be honest. This card's pretty nuts, especially in combination with Super Factorial. You can totally play this card at 2, if you really wanted to. Initially I was. I think having it at 2 might actually be the way over having Heat Soul. I never ever used Heat Soul, and sometimes I wanted a 2nd one of this. Sometimes I wanted a 3rd one of this, to be honest. So absolutely, if you have 3 of this, go nuts. I would say play 3 of it. It's actually really, really good. It doesn't come up very often. Like the 3rd copy doesn't come up very often, but in longer games, it can be handy. But yeah, I would maybe, if you want to not play Heat Soul, I would play a 3rd copy or a 2nd copy of Laplacian. In fact, to be honest, I probably would recommend it. I never use Heat Soul. And then getting into our Link Claim package. So basically, the Link Claim package is very, very simple. Whenever you're going first, you're going to be using your Link Disciple and your Link Devotee. These cards are going to set up your IP Masquerena alongside another one of your Link 2s in order to summon out either Avramax or Access Code Talker on your opponent's turn. You can also, if you want to, go for Apollosa. I believe I have Apollosa favorited here. Yeah. You can also summon Apollosa. Oh, another one that I saw people summoning, which I thought was really cool, was the Topologic Bomber Dragon. I thought this was amazing. Some people were playing this to play with their Masquerena. I really liked it. 100%. I think this is really cool. I just don't like the fact that it like takes up almost permanent residency in your extra monster zone. But apart from that, it's pretty sick. I do like that idea. I don't like a 2 material Apollosa. I think with 1600 attack points, all they need to do is go battle phase and destroy you. I guess you can somewhat make up for that with the super factorial play. If they just normal summon something and attempt to go into battle phase, you just super factorial it to the graveyard. So there is an argument to be made, absolutely, as to why you would play Apollosa. I just personally, I think Avramax is so much more impactful in the current metagame, because this takes care of a lot of cards, especially the mirror match. This takes care of the mirror match. Again, if you need to go head to head against the Sigma, Avramax is your man. Sigma's unaffected by card effects, but Avramax isn't affecting you. He's boosting himself. So, absolutely, I think Avramax is simply more impactful. Access code you need for the link climb. Access code becomes so broken in this deck. But yeah, you will summon out Disciple using any of your Cybers. Using another one, you're going to go into Link Devotee. Link Disciple will tribute Link Devotee to draw you a card, and then you return a card in your hand back to deck. So it's like a mini mulligan, which does come up. You saw it in the gameplay. I was hitting like a max C off of it and things. So absolutely, that does in fact come up quite a bit. Then you will simply use your Link Disciple. If you don't have any more extenders, if you don't have any other monsters on your field, then you will go into your Splash Mage off of your Disciple and one of your tokens. Splash Mage, revive a monster, and then using your token and your new monster, you'll go into IP Masquerena. If you do have an extender on your field or any other monster at all in your field, you'll usually, instead of using Splash Mage, you'll use Wicked. So you'll link with Disciple and one of your tokens into Wicked, then using your remaining monster that you already had and your token, you'll go into Masquerena under Wicked, and that will trigger Wicked's effect to banish the Cybers from grave, like your link monsters, to search your deck for any of your tuners, which could be Diameter for follow-up if you don't already have it, it could be Nabla for follow-up, it could be Sigma. I think those are the 3 main tuners. Yeah, so you could basically grab any of these 3 cards from your deck as follow-up for the next turn. So yeah, that's why you would do that. But if you don't want to do the Wicked play to search for a tuner, maybe you've already used all your tuners, then you can just do Splash Mage instead. Unicorn is another possible monster to hit off of Masquerena if you really need the bounce. It has come up, it will come up. Unicorn will win you some games. I think it's mandatory to play, absolutely. Transcode Talker. Transcode Talker is, again, key just for going into Access Code Talker. Basically, just pick any Cybers monster in your graveyard, revive it, and then you're just going to use it as link material to go into Access Code Talker. It's a great way of recycling the destruction protection of IP Masquerena, summon an indestructible Access Code Talker, summon an indestructible Avramax off of your Transcode Talker, which is pretty phenomenal. I believe, does it negate the monster that it summons? Let me just double check. It doesn't actually even negate it, which is good, which means you can summon the likes of Circular and reuse its effects. But normally, ideally what you'll want to be doing is resummoning the likes of Multiplication. If you summon Multiplication off a Transcode, then you use your Transcode Talker and your Multiplication to link summon into Access Code. You activate Multiplication Chain Link 1, Access Code Chain Link 2, that stops them from responding. Access Code boosts itself up to 53. Multiplication boosts your Access Code up to 10,600 attack points. Who needs Update Jammer if you're already over 10,000 attack? You know what I mean? That's pretty busted. Just banish their whole field. You're going to have a light, you're going to have an earth, you're going to have potentially a water, you're going to have potentially an additional dark. You're going to have like 4 pops in your graveyard, and you're just going to be able to swing 10k directly and win the game. If you don't have Multiplication to hand, well, you might have the Billion Blade, which will do the exact same job, except even better. So there's tons of ways of turning your Access Code Talker into lethal damage, especially if you use your Masquerena to summon it, making it indestructible. And Avramax is much the same, a bit more of a defensive option. It prevents your other monsters from being attacked, but basically he becomes untargetable indestructible off of Masquerena. If he battles an opponent's monster, he gains that monster's attack points, as long as it was special summoned. But yeah, good luck normal summoning something bigger than 3k. But basically, yes, he just negates... He doesn't negate, sorry, he gains the attack points of anything he battles, which makes him supremely difficult to get rid of in a lot of cases, especially considering you can boost him up so high off of the Billion Blade. But yeah, that is the full deck. This is a ton of fun. I appreciate I've been rambling here for over 20 minutes. I am absolutely in love with this deck. This is so much fun. Definitely one of my new favorites. I'm going to be using this deck a lot going forward. I'm going to be testing out a few new variants of it, potentially Salomon Grade, potentially Code Talkers. There's a few other ones, Ad Ignisters. I don't have all of the Ad Ignister cards, but if I pick them up, it's just the amount of potential that Circular brings to any cyberspace strategy is criminal. It's so good. But anyway, I'm going to stop rambling here. If you like what you're seeing and you want to see anything more like this, these big in-depth breakdowns of different decks, again, I'm not going to pretend to be the best player in the game, but I know a little thing or two. So if you want to be getting sort of advice and big breakdowns about decks like this and any other deck really that you want to see, feel free to subscribe. We do things like this on the regular when it comes to any new deck on the channel. We do big deep dives into every single one of them. So if that's something you're interested in and you want to be seeing that level of detail, absolutely subscribe. Or if you just like the gameplay as well, why not? You know, you might as well subscribe and see more of it as it comes out in the future. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to be signing off and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.